Hello, everyone, and welcome. We will give some time as people continue to join us over the next couple of minutes, but I do want to kick off today's webinar and welcome everyone. I am very excited for today's conversation, and I'm really glad that you're joining us for it. My name is Nathan Ahlgrim, and I am the Senior Academic Community Manager at the Good Food Institute. I will pass it over to Dr. Lim shortly as our featured speaker. But for those of you who may be new to GFI, I did want to share a quick introduction about who we are and what we do. Especially if this is your first time with us, I would very strongly encourage you to spend some time exploring our treasure trove of open access resources on our website, gfi.org, which includes everything from technical reports to a free online course on the protein transition. So very briefly, the Good Food Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to developing the roadmap for a sustainable, secure, and just protein supply. We are funded entirely by philanthropy, and our generous donors allow us to work towards this vision in three areas of focus. I personally am coming from our science and technology team, where we work to advance foundational open access research in alternative proteins and creating a thriving research and training ecosystem around these game-changing fields. Our corporate engagement team partners with companies and investors across the globe to drive investment, accelerate innovation, and scale the supply chain. And our policy team advocates for fair policy and public investment for alternative proteins. Now, I am coming from the US team, and this is when I acknowledge that it is maybe very early or very late in the day for many of you because we are a global community. So I do thank you for making the time. And I have the privilege of working with a truly global team of affiliates in 6 other regions across the globe because we recognize the need both for regional and local expertise to best meet the needs of specific political climates and hubs of technical expertise and natural resource production, but of course also the different cultural foodways that exist in every corner of the globe. And just to kind of set the scene for this webinar series, the goal of this series is really to share roadmaps for success in alternative protein training and education. Because I'm sure, as many of you know, being an emerging field, there is still a relative lack of opportunities for people who want to build their careers in this field. As with general trends in training and education, we know that empowering a robust workforce will require a multi-pronged approach. We will highlight a broad array of real-world problems throughout this series, and our goal is for this knowledge sharing to really catalyze new program development and eventually to kickstart the careers of future alternative protein luminaries. So for today, I'm going to share our resources, at least a small selection of them that we have available on our website and beyond. And then I will pass it to Dr. Lim to share her story of the incredible program between Singapore Institute of Technology and FoodPlant. We will follow that with a deeper discussion that can be informed by your questions. So please submit them using the Q&A feature as they come up. We won't be able to monitor the chat for your questions, but it is a great place to introduce yourself and to connect with other alternative protein champions. I actually know from experience across this webinar series that we have had a number of industry academic partnerships form starting in this chat box. So definitely if you are looking to build something from either end of the alternative protein ecosystem, please make sure you share your information and any ideas that you have. When it comes to especially the most relevant resources that we have available, really our mission is to reduce duplicative efforts so that you can take our resources and run with them with whatever you would like to do, whomever you would like to educate, whether that be yourself, your students, or someone else. So one of our standout resources here is our online course on the protein transition. We've had thousands of enrollees, and it is, quite frankly, how I started my education in the alternative protein space, and I highly recommend it, both personally and professionally. We also have a teaching library that is an enormous compendium of materials, curricula, slide decks, recorded lectures, and the like to support students with self-paced learning, or if you are building a course in alternative proteins, again, you don't have to start from scratch from our resources. And finally, we do have a career pathways tool. And I would really encourage you to take some time to explore it if you haven't already. My colleague Arin Naidu, who is also on this call, was the one who spearheaded this effort. And it may be the most directly relevant tool to this call because it describes and clarifies job types and the related skill sets needed to engage really in all sectors of the industrial side of alternative proteins. All of that really means that there's a lot out there from us and frankly from other people as the resources are continuing to expand. And I know firsthand how overwhelming the sheer quantity of resources can be. Seeing something like our teaching library with literally more than 100 resources, it can be hard to know which are most relevant to your goals, which syllabus or slide deck has the information to help you get there. So if you are exploring what to use and how, please reach out to us. It is literally our job to assist you and help you build what is most relevant to you and your stakeholders, your students. So please connect with us. That really is my request. Even if you're not looking for guidance, we would really love to know about what you plan to build and what sorts of results you have seen on the other side. So with all of that said, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lim Bee Gim as the founding CEO of FoodPlant, where she led the establishment of Singapore's first shared food production facility. And I will refrain from describing FoodPlant in more detail so that I can allow Dr. Lim the opportunity to share its foundation and growth. But I did want to, again, just kind of mention, where she is coming from and why this position and this expertise is so special. She now serves as the technical advisor at FoodPlant, in addition to being an associate professor at the Singapore Institute of Technology, where she mentors future food technologists and actively designs and delivers industry training courses to upskill professionals in advanced processing technologies, such as extrusion and thermal processing. She has built these programs on top of more than 20 years of experience in food technology, and every conversation I've had with her has really reaffirmed how well even just like this brief chunk of her bio encapsulates how she expertly navigates the intersection between conceptual education and the practicalities of industry. She truly is like one of these kinds of people who serves her students by sharing her expertise and opening doors that, frankly, when I was a student, like I didn't even know could be opened at this stage. So with that, Dr. Lim, I will pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Nathan, for your introduction. Good morning and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'll be sharing how we build real manufacturing capability, not only for the traditional foods, but especially for the next generation protein products, where skill up, structure formation, and process behavior determine success. So my goal is to give you a practical and transparent look at how Singapore is strengthening both its talent pipeline and its translational infrastructure to support the future of food. So let me begin by giving you an overview of what we will cover this evening. I will cover 5 areas. First, why processing capability really matters. Because today the bottleneck is no longer discovery, but translation. Second, I will introduce FoodPlant as a pilot-scale translational hub and explain how it supports small batch production, process refinement, and early commercial readiness. Third, I will show how FoodPlant is intentionally embedded into SIT's curriculum and why this alignment is essential for building industry-ready talent. Fourth, I will outline the 3 modules we are embedding at FoodPlant. Year 1, foundational exposure. Year 3, manufacturing, and the emerging food processing elective, and what students will actually do in the real industrial environment. Finally, I will connect these elements back to alternative proteins and why capability in processing, documentation, and scale up is fundamental for the sector's progress. To understand why these capability matter, we need to go back to the original reason why FoodPlant was created. Because the gap between benchtop success and the real production was very real. When FoodPlant was first established, the intention was very clear and very practical. Many SMEs and startups had strong ideas, validated benchtop prototypes, and even early customer interest. But they faced a very real barrier to commercial launch. Industry equipment is capital intensive, space intensive, and must be operated within an SFA licensed facility. SFA stands for Singapore Food Agency, licensed facility with proper sanitation controls and trained operators. On the other hand, contract manufacturers also require large minimum order quantities, which most early stage company cannot meet. So this created a dual gap, a scale up gap where formulations need to be run under real processing condition, and a commercialization gap where companies need a licensed environment to produce legally sellable product in small batches. FoodPlant was created to bridge this entire transition by offering a shared SFA licensed pilot scale facility where companies can run small batch commercial ready production, conduct market tests and consumer trials, fulfill early customer orders, refine process before committing to commercial scale manufacturing. The goal then and now is to provide a neutral, accessible space where companies can test, produce, and launch without the burden of buying equipment or hitting large MOQs. And over time, as more companies use the facility, FoodPlant naturally evolved into a translational hub. Not because that was the original mandate, but because real processing inevitably exposes the issues that must be solved for confident scale up and early commercial readiness. So now with this context, let me show you what FoodPlant looks like today and how it fills this specific role in Singapore's food innovation landscape. FoodPlant is Singapore's first shared pilot scale food production facility. It was set up as a joint initiative between Enterprise Singapore, JTC, and SIT to give companies access to industrial equipment inside an SFA licensed food safe environment without requiring major capital investment. As an SFA licensed facility and with ISO 22K and ISO 45K certifications, we provide a professionally governed environment where companies can run small batch production safely and compliantly, supporting early commercial readiness. Our focus is very clear. We enable small batch production, process refinement, and commercial readiness. And importantly, we are a neutral space. We do not act as a manufacturer. Instead, we provide a place where SME, startups, and partners can access industrial technologies safely and affordably. And being in this unique position means we also need to be very clear about what we do and equally what we do not do. So what we do. We provide an SFA licensed pilot scale environment. We support small batch production for market testing. We assist companies with process refinement and early commercial readiness. We offer access to industrial technologies and troubleshooting support. We enable authentic capability building through real operations. And what we do not do, we are not a contract manufacturer. We do not take ownership of IP. We do not replace full-scale factories or long-term production lines. And we absolutely do not compete with industry. This clarity keeps us in the right lane and ensures we complement rather than displace the ecosystem. To understand how we enable this, it helps to look at how the facility itself is designed, how space, zoning, and technologies are configured to support small batch commercial production. FoodPlant is purpose-built as a pilot-scale facility equipped with a broad range of industrial food processing technologies. Our technologies cover key categories that support small batch manufacturing and scale-up, including thermal processing, extrusion for high and low moisture applications, spray drying, vacuum drying, and freeze drying, and non-thermal technologies such as pulse electric field. These capabilities allow companies to refine structure and texture, validate safety requirements, understand ingredient behaviors at scale, and produce small batches for real-world testing. Most importantly, pilot-scale equipment shows you things that benchtop tools simply can't, and how ingredients behave under real shear, hydration, heating and cooling, flow and throughput. And this provides realistic insight into how a product will perform under actual industrial conditions. And this leads to an important point in today's landscape: processing capability. Not discovery is the real determinant of success. So across the food industry, and especially in alternative proteins, the innovation bottleneck has shifted. It is no longer discovery. We already have abundant new ingredients, strains, and formulations. The bottleneck today is translation, turning a promising idea into something that can actually be manufactured, scaled, and sold. But the real constraints involved in translation, moisture management, shear, throughput, heating and cooling, sanitation, are rarely taught. And these only reveal themselves when you work with real equipment under real processing conditions. And this is why infrastructure alone does not build capability. You can have machinery, but without people who understand how processes behave, how ingredients respond, and how to troubleshoot, the capability is not there. And people build capability, not machines. So if you want next generation technologies who can contribute from day one, they need more than theory. They need process thinking, the ability to judge moisture, energy input, flow, and residence time, and the operational confidence to work safely and effectively in real manufacturing environments. And this realization shaped our next move. We decided to turn this capability gap into a learning advantage. We recognize a clear capability gap between classroom learning and what industry needed graduates to handle in real production. And SID access to FoodPlant gave us a rare opportunity, the ability to offer a true manufacturing learning environment within an undergraduate program. So we make a deliberate decision to design the curriculum around authentic processing experiences, not simulations, not demonstrations, but real exposure to how food is produced, how equipment is operated, and how manufacturing is managed in practice. And the question we are often asked is whether bringing students into FoodPlant changes its mandate. In fact, it reinforces it. FoodPlant exists to build national capability in food processing and preparing future talent through industry-aligned learning strengthens exactly that mission. So this became the foundation of our strategy to develop graduates who are confident, industry-ready, and able to contribute effectively from day one. And with that foundation, let me show you how FoodPlant gradually became embedded within the SIT curriculum. Our integration with FoodPlant started small. We began with a single elective, and we quickly saw how much students gained when they learned in a real processing environment, where ingredient behavior, equipment behavior, and process flow became visible and tangible. And from there, we expanded deliberately. We selected the modules where FoodPlant provided the greatest learning value: food safety, food manufacturing, and food development and product development. These were the most natural fits because their concepts only come alive when students work under real industrial conditions. Over time, these modules form a coherent learning pathway, one that helps students build processing awareness, operational confidence, and manufacturability thinking. And this was a phased, intentional integration. And our transition to SIT own degree program allowed us to structure the modules exactly as we intended, creating a pathway where FoodPlant is intentionally embedded from the beginning. So to understand what students actually experience in the past module at FoodPlant, let me show you what learning looks like inside a real manufacturing facility. These images give you a sense of what students experience in practice. They work hands-on with real industry systems in a food-safe environment that mirrors production conditions, the same systems used by companies. And this authentic exposure has shaped our capability building approach, and it is now intentionally embedded within the new curriculum pathway. From September 2025, we begin delivering the new standalone SIT Food Technology program. And as part of this redesign, we structure 3 new modules anchored at FoodPlant. With earlier FoodPlant-based experiences already well established, the new curriculum now organizes them into a clear, intentional learning pathway. In year 1, foundation exposure. So through this module, FDT 1031, industry induction, students gain their first encounter with real production environments. And this builds their safety mindsets, situational awareness, and understanding of how food is made at scale. And in by year 3, students are ready for deeper capability building. And FDT 4023, food manufacturing module, brings them from concept to pilot to small batch production runs at FoodPlant. And here, they develop manufacturing literacy, operational confidence, and real production documentation skills. And students who choose an elective FDT 4004, Emerging Food Processing Technology, will have the opportunity to deepen their understanding of extrusion, thermal processing, PF, and how ingredients behave under industrial conditions. And together, these modules create a structured progression from foundational exposure to core manufacturing competence, and finally to advanced processing capabilities, and all anchored at FoodPlant. And now, let me take you inside the first module, where the student journey begins. In FDT 1031, it gives year one student their earliest exposure to a real food manufacturing environment. It is structured as a 12 weeks immersion at FoodPlant. They will begin hygiene zoning, GMP, ISO practices, and industrial workflows. So elements that simply cannot be replicated in a classroom. Students work alongside FoodPlant personnel, observe real operations, and appreciate the discipline and professionalism required in a production environment. And this early immersion will build confidence and workplace readiness, and laying the foundation for the manufacturing modules that comes later. For alternative proteins, this early exposure means students understand from the start the environments where such products must ultimately be made, and not just how they are formulated. And let me show you how the exposure unfolds in practice. During these 12 weeks, students will participate meaningfully in day-to-day operations. They will practice hygiene zoning and follow industrial movement controls. They observe equipment behavior, understand workflow logic, and contribute to documentation used in real production settings. And more importantly, they will begin to see how process shape product outcomes. They will quickly realize that formulation alone does not determine product quality, and processing does. And in the past FoodPlant-based modules we have run, we consistently see a clear shift. Students stop thinking like learners and start thinking like technologists. So what do I mean? Instead of asking, which button do I press? They start asking, why is the melt pressure dancing up and down today? So instead of staring at the extruder like it's a mysterious machine, they lean in and say, something is off with the moisture. Look at that texture change. And these observations from the early modules are exactly why we designed the new curriculum to deepen operational capability. And when students start thinking this way, and that is when real capability begins to form. And to reinforce this learning, we designed assessments that progressively build operational capability. The assessment in FDT 1031 are deliberately scaffolded. Students start by learning through observation and basic operational contribution, and gradually progress to analyzing equipment behavior and delivering a real improvement to support operations. So the first assessment places students directly into FoodPlant's daily operations. In small teams, they will take on a real operational task that supports the facility. And this could be, for example, preparing visual control tools, updating workflow checklists, supporting traceability documentation, or assisting with basic data collection, or reviewing safety or sanitation routines. So they must complete the task accurately and safely, and following the same GMP, ISO 22K, ISO 45K expectations that FoodPlant staff follow. They also submit a short reflection on workflow, discipline, and where risk or inefficiency appear. And this builds their foundational habits: hygiene discipline, situational awareness, responsibility, and consistency. And the fundamentals, these are the fundamentals of manufacturing conduct. In second assessment, students will select a piece of industrial equipment used at FoodPlant, such as retort, mixer, or even a dehydrator or a separator. And we want the student to use AI-assisted research to explore how the equipment works, the scientific and engineering principle behind it. Why is behavior matters for food safety, quality, and process integrity, and how parameters influence product outcomes, and the risk if the equipment is misused. They must review, critique, and verify that AI-generated content and not accept it blindly. And they need to demonstrate judgment and technical interpretation. And what this builds is equipment literacy, an understanding of how processing units behave, what operators must watch for, and how equipment links to safety and regulatory requirements. And this type of technical insight is something companies constantly say new graduates are lacking. In the third assessment, the student will become genuine contributors. Students will identify a real operational challenge at FoodPlant. For example, it could be a workflow bottleneck, it could be a documentation gap, or a sanitation inefficiency, a safety or communication issue, or a process step that can be streamlined. And they will conduct root cause analysis like the 5 whys and the fishbone, and consult FoodPlant staff, test ideas, and propose or implement a practical solution that the facility can actually adopt. And this mirrors how continuous improvement is done in the industry. So students must present the problem, their analysis, and propose changes, feasibility, impact, recommend next steps. So this is where they demonstrate initiative, problem solving, teamwork, documentation literacy, and professional communication skills. And by the end of year 1, our students are already comfortable operating within a licensed food safe manufacturing environment, and a level of exposure that very few undergraduate programs anywhere in the world can offer. So, and with this foundation in place, students will be ready to take on deeper, more complex responsibility in year 3. So by the time students reach year 3, they are ready for a much deeper learning experience. And in most universities, product development stops at prototype or at best pilot scale. At SIT, students go further. So FDT 4023 is designed to take students through 3 stages: prototype development, pilot scales at SIT, and real manufacturing at FoodPlant. So it is this final stage, stage 3, that develops manufacturing literacy, operational confidence, and the ability to work under real constraints. And for alternative proteins, where manufacturability determines commercial viability, these capabilities are essential. And let me now show you what stage 3 looks like when students step into a licensed facility and run real production at FoodPlant. So students will carry out activities that mirror real industrial workflows: raw material receiving and traceability, operating industrial equipment in a hygiene zone facility, batch production with safety and quality compliance, packaging, labeling, storage, and shelf life verification, consumer engagement during on-campus sale. And the module will conclude with a public sales event where students gather real consumer feedback and analyze purchasing behavior. And for alternative proteins, this experience is invaluable. Students witness directly how texture, bite, flavor, and messaging influence consumer acceptance. So to evaluate this real-world performance, and we also use assessment that mirror industry expectations. So the assessment are intentionally designed to mirror what the industry expects. Not hypothetical exercises, but real production, real documentation, and real consumers. So each assignment maps directly to a core pillar of commercial readiness. So the first one, production execution. And this is the first major shift from learning to performing. Students run 2 weeks of full-scale production at FoodPlant and are evaluated on preparation and readiness. So like raw material, equipment allocation, production records, and the roles. Execution and hygiene discipline, following SOPs, GMP, ISO practices. And the team coordination, clear communication, and safe handovers. Process monitoring and documentation, accurate batch records, in-process checks, traceability. And this mirrors how operators and junior technologies are assessed in real factories. Students must show they can run a batch safely, consistently, and as a team, not just describe it. And in the second assessment, manufacturing dossier. This assignment requires students to prepare the full documentation required before a production run can legally and safely proceed. So it includes final product formulation and ingredient list, process flow diagram and CTPs, manufacturing procedures and equipment used, product specification, sensory, physical, nutritional, and packaging and labeling requirements, storage, handling, and shelf life considerations, hazard plan, food safety measures, QA checks, environmental controls. So this dossier is effectively a mini version of what companies submit to QA, auditors, and regulators. And it teaches students how much thinking happens before any product is allowed on the line. And the third assignment is go-to-market strategy and consumer engagement. And this is where students learn that commercial readiness is not just technical, it is also strategic. So team will prepare a comprehensive launch plan that includes target market and positioning, pricing logic, packaging and communication strategy, hygiene and safety protocols for customer interactions, and activation or sampling plan. Then students will also execute a public-facing campus launch. So they will have the booth set up and logistic, allergen labeling, hygiene control, waste management, and real-time customer interactions, sales or sampling, and also QR-based surveys and feedback collection. And they will analyze sales data, consumer feedback, and what worked and what did not, and how they would refine the product or strategy. And this assignment teaches students the realities of launching a product. And the fourth assignment, a final reflection report. And this assessment is intentionally personal. Students reflect on what they learn about manufacturing, their decision-making under pressure, and how their understanding of commercialization evolve, the skills and behaviors they develop, or how they see themselves contributing as future technologies. And this ties together their entire journey from phase 1 prototype development to phase 3, the real production and consumer-facing sales. And together, these assessments ensure students understand not only how to execute manufacturing, but also the technical justification, the safety requirements, and commercial consideration behind making a product market ready. When you look across this assessment, the importance of real manufacturing exposure become very clear. So this brings me to the next slide. This module develops capabilities that simply cannot be taught through simulation or benchtop tools. And students build operational confidence and professional behavior, decision-making under real constraints, and traceability, documentation, and regulatory literacy, market understanding and consumer insight, and a job-ready talent pipeline for the industry. So for alternative proteins, these skills are essential. Success relies not just on formulation, but on manufacturability, sensory acceptance, and the ability to scale reliably and safely. And FDT prepares students to support these realities from day one. So with strong manufacturing capability established, the next step is to build advanced scientific and technology depth. So in FDT 4004, advanced processing for the future of food. So manufacturing capability, which I described earlier, it gives students operational depth. The emerging technologies module give them conceptual and the scientific depth. And FDT 4004 strengthens students' understanding of how emerging processing technologies influence structure, stability, and product performance. And for the first run, we will focus on extrusion and pulse electric field because they have immediate relevance to next generation proteins, influencing texture, efficiency, and nutritional quality. And in future iterations, we will expand the module to include advanced thermal processing, for example, alternative drying methods or hybrid energy systems, and ensuring students stay current with the technologies shaping the future of food. So this scientific and analytical foundation complements the real manufacturing experience from the earlier module FDT 4023, and this enables students to innovate with both technical rigor and the practical insight. Let me now show you what students will do inside this advanced processing module. In this first offering, students will work hands-on with two key technologies that shape the future of food: extrusion and pulse electric field. Students run both low moisture extrusion for half snack and high protein extrusion for fibrous mid-analog structures. So they will vary key processing parameters such as moisture levels, screw configuration, barrel temperatures profiles, feed rate, and the die geometry, and observe how these influence specific mechanical energy and flow behavior, expansion, structure formation, and final product quality. In the HMMA trials, they will also study how cooling die design affect the fibrous alignment and the texture and the bite. So in parallel, students explore the fundamentals of PEF processing, examine how pulse parameters and treatment intensity influence cell structure, microbial inactivation, processing efficiency, and the downstream product behavior. Across both technologies, the focus is the same: understanding how formulation, process variables, and equipment behavior interact to determine product outcome under the industrially relevant conditions. So to reinforce this level of technical understanding, the assessments are structured to mirror how innovation proposals and technical evaluations are carried out in industry. So to build real technical judgment, we use 3 authentic assessments that mirror how new technologies and process are evaluated in industry. For the first assessment, the emerging technology review, each student will select a processing technology beyond extrusion and PEF. And for example, it could be high pressure processing or omic heating. And they will use AI tools such as ChatGPT to support their literature search and framing. but they remain responsible for checking accuracy, interpreting the science, and articulating the industrial relevance. The aim is to build curiosity, critical reading, and the ability to turn a broad, sometimes noisy information space into a clear and well-argued technical review. Second, the PEF application proposal. Students will be asked to design a feasible PEF application for a chosen product or process step. They must justify the proposed process parameters, explain the expected effects on safety, quality, or efficiency, and discuss practical consideration for implementations. And this trains them to think in terms of process design and not just technology description. Third, the extrusion product development project. And here, students will develop an extrusion-based product concept, and often in the alternative protein or the snack space, and use generative AI to support ideation, benchmarking, and presentation. So AI is a tool in the workflow, but they are fully accountable for the technical choices and processing rationale and final product concept. Across all three assessments, the emphasis is the same. Not just knowing the technologies, but being able to evaluate them, design with them, and communicate their implications in a way that is meaningful for the industry. And when you put all these modules and assessments together, you start to see why emerging technology are so important for next generation food. So these technologies, extrusion, PEF, and the emerging system we will introduce are becoming central to how next generation food products are designed, scaled, and evaluated. They enable better texture design for alternative proteins, reduce thermal damage, improve energy efficiency, and support new product formats. They also strengthen national capability in next generation processing and complement the real manufacturing experience students gain at FoodPlant. And graduates who understand both science and manufacturing, can interpret process structure function relations, troubleshoot real production issues, assess scalability and manufacturing feasibility, understand consumer expectation, and engage confidently with evolving technologies. And this integrated capability is rare at the undergraduate level, and it is exactly what the sector needs. And when we bring all this together, FoodPlant, SIT's curriculum, and these modules, the capability we are building become very clear. So building capability to scale the future of food. FoodPlant enables small batch production and commercial readiness, while SIT prepares graduates who understand real manufacturing, real constraints, and real consumer expectations. And this combination is essential for alternative proteins, where processing behavior, texture, formation, and scalability determines whether promising concepts succeed. And by integrating authentic learning within a live pilot scale environment, we strengthen technical capability, reduce onboarding time, and support companies in adopting advanced processing technologies with confidence. And together, this strengthens Singapore's position and the regions, and to drive scalable, commercially viable food innovation supported by a strong future-ready talent pipeline. And I would like to close with a moment that captures why this work matters. And this was taken on the last day of one of our modules at FoodPlant. When the students had completed their full journey from concept to real production. And it was a meaningful moment for them because they had grown so much. Sorry. Um, they had grown so much in just a few months and in confidence, in capability, and in understanding what real manufacturing feels like. Sorry, when I saw this picture, it really reminded me a lot. For us at SIT and FoodPlant, and this is what makes the work meaningful. And when students leave with not just knowledge, but with pride, ownership, and the confidence that they can operate in a real industrial environment, and that is when capability building become real. And at this, it's the same foundation we bring to our work with industry and the broader alternative protein ecosystem. Real processing, real scale up, and real readiness. And thank you for being here today and for supporting the future of food innovation and manufacturing talent. Thank you. And now I will hand over to Nathan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lim. And I very much appreciate you ending just with a reminder exactly of why we do what we do, because we can talk about the food, we can talk about the growth, but it really does all come down to the students that we are helping and assisting so that they can not only get the job originally, but succeed in that job, whether that be with another company or their own if they are entrepreneurial minded. So as we transition to the discussion portion, I do want to encourage everybody who is watching live, if you have any questions you would like raised, please add that in the Q&A box. This can include really anything from how you might apply this in your own circumstance with your own set of resources and constraints, or just additional information about the program Dr. Lim shared throughout. But I know that I have a couple of questions. I will do my best not to monopolize, so please jump in with all of yours if you have them. But I would say, starting from the beginning, and now I'm having to scroll through all of the notes that I was taking. Um, I was very encouraged to hear that from the beginning of this integration between FoodPlant and SIT, you did kind of start with a pilot and a single module that then expanded. And I really latched onto that because I know coming from the outside, it can seem like a program like this has always been this comprehensive and it would be almost impossible to replicate anywhere else. So I'm curious what sorts of metrics or outcomes or feedback you received from that initial pilot module that validated the need to expand to these now three modules that you have?
Okay, so just now you saw that picture, and that was very real. And when we finished this first module, and you can see that the students were really, uh, they were very happy with that module, and they also feel that they have grown so much. And I think this is something that really encouraged us to go for the next. But before that, all the time, I have always wanted uh, to train my student in an authentic environment, and that just validate, that the end of the module, and it just validate that we have done the right thing,
Mm.
and we feel that okay, we should not just stop there, and that makes us think of like, okay, how can we prepare students even better, and that is why we went on to the second module and the third module. And then now with this new degree program, and then we start even from the year one, and then to prepare the student. So this is more like, this is really intentionally, and that we build it that way. Yeah.
Mm. Well, that's great to hear just the response that you've gotten throughout. And I would love to kind of keep it focused on the students that are working through this program for a little bit. And I'm curious to know if there are common trends for the motivations of students to join these modules, especially the elective that you said not all students end their training with. Have you heard any common motivations, goals from these students that you would want to highlight?
Okay, student often tell me that working in a real facility helps them connect what they learn in class and what actually happens during the processing. So many say this makes the concept clearer and more meaningful. And they also share that the hands-on exposure gives them a bit more confidence. Okay, not because they have mastered everything, but because they now understand what to pay attention to and how processing parameter influence outcome. And for my own observations, students become more aware of process behavior. For example, noticing when moisture is off or when pressure fluctuates, which shows they are starting to think more carefully about why things happen. And my FoodPlant colleague have also mentioned that students are generally attentive to safety, hygiene, and documentation, and which makes the real facility learning experience smoother.
Hmm.
Overall, these feedback points suggest that authentic exposure helps students build confidence gradually and develop a more grounded understanding of food processing. And for all of us, that is already a very meaningful shift. Mm.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'm curious again in your observations,
Mm.
recognizing the unique growth that can happen once you do enter that practical environment. If there is an area that you have kind of seen as the steepest learning curve that has emphasized in a particular practice or even that conceptual switch that is the area of biggest growth, that is or even in another way of thinking about it, kind of the biggest advantage of ensuring that students have this practical education.
Um, okay, the biggest growth. Um, I I would think it's really the confidence. And the confidence that um they are able to handle the machine. So when I'm talking about handle, not just operate in that sense, but able to troubleshoot, able to
Mm,
connect the knowledge, able to connect before that, you know, most of the time, students just learn knowledge, but now they are able to apply that knowledge in a real environment. And I think that is uh, the steepest learning for them. So they are not just learner, and they become technologists. And confidence, that confidence to be able uh, to do that job, I think this is something that they really appreciate. Mm.
yeah, actually, one of my teacher mentors had framed it once as trying to help students grow from problem identifiers to problem solvers, and it sounds like that is
Mm.
exactly what you are providing
Mm.
your students.
Mm.
Um, And so again, some of what I'm saying is informed by other people's questions I've gotten throughout, even before this call. So please keep them coming in if anything comes up for you. But I did want to then ask, and we did not talk about this beforehand, so I recognize I'm putting you on the spot, and if nothing comes to mind, that is totally fine. But I'm curious, especially with some of the assessments
Mm.
that you provide, if you have any examples, especially as talking about like the process suggestions and improvements, Any
mm,
examples of, particularly effective student projects that
mm.
identify and really point to their maturity as technologists?
Okay. Uh, Earlier when I was teaching, I have a module called Industrial System Improvement, which I taught lean thinking, lean, so the A3 problem solving. And at that time, the problem identified, it was just their daily problem. It could be something that I don't have enough sleep, things like that. And then they will have to look into the root cause and see how they can have to achieve the duration of the sleep that they want. So now, moving into the factory, and this is what we want them to identify a problem at the factory and then solve them. So it is the same thing. They will also be using this A3 problem solving, and where
Mm.
they will look into the background, then the current situation, then the goal, and the root cause analysis, and the the um, the implementation, the after implementation, and how they can sustain that behavior. So they will still go through all these steps. And but we haven't run this module, but I'm excited to see what student will be able to use their own eyes and to identify the problem and to have this continuous improvement mindset. And I think this is really something um that is very meaningful. And I like this kind of assignment, and really let student identify the problem and become a problem solver, and then to have this continuous improvement mindset. So yeah, maybe 1 year later I will be able, not 1 year, perhaps we are going to run this module soon, and we will be able to I'll be able to share with you more on what kind of problems that identified by the student, and what they have implemented at the factory floor. And this is going to be very exciting.
That's wonderful to hear that you're, continuing to build and iterate.
Mm,
And on that note, I would love to know, just again, based on the feedback and your observations, the assessments that have come in since you have begun these modules.
mm,
If there are any types of re building new strategy
mm,
or redesigning any of the
mm.
modules and curricula based on previous experience that you think might be useful reflections and useful updates to share with the audience.
Um, okay, so we have before we run this our SIT own program, we have this uh, partner with overseas university, and so we have already run some of these modules at SIT at FoodPlant. And so some of the things that we have evolved from there includes the um, especially this manufacturing. So manufacturing was something that previously it wasn't um, it was a small scale manufacturing, but this time we are bringing it to really to the consumer level, to let them see how, when you are not just producing a product, and you are going to face the consumer, and to let the consumer uh, um, give you feedback on how the product is. So with that, then they will understand, not just the whole process, not just stop at the manufacturing, but one more step on the consumer. So I think this is something that we have evolved, and definitely I think we definitely will want to um, when we start running these SIT, these three modules that I've just described, and we definitely will again, based on the feedback, and then we are going to evolve, and we are going to to make it even more authentic or more relevant to the industry. Mm,
Yeah, I will say I was very impressed to see that even go-to-market strategy and sales was integrated into these modules that I would
mm,
imagine gives the students such a broader breadth of the entire process than I would imagine many professionals have as they continue to specialize in their career to give, exactly as you said, a fuller appreciation of how every step along the chain really contributes to each other. So you had
mm.
already kind of mentioned a collaboration with other institutions, and I am curious, just because of how truly unique of an institution that FoodPlant is, that of course many people will not have access to. If there
Mm.
are any ways that you would recommend people might be able to integrate this sort of practical production training if they do not have similar facilities, similar capabilities, or if you see direct partnership and collaboration really the most effective path forward.
Okay. Um, so just now what I've described, the food plant is just one possible model. Uh, and I don't think university needs to replicate a full pilot scale facility to achieve the same learning outcomes. Uh, what matters most is the philosophy behind it. Uh, bringing students closer to the real manufacturing and let them see the real constraints and the real decision making. So there are other practical pathways that different university can adapt based on their context. For example, they could start with partnership rather than the infrastructure. Many university has already worked closely with industry. So if a dedicated facility is not feasible, and a structured partnership with a pilot plant, a contract manufacturer, or even a government supported shared facility can give student exposure to real processing lines. Um, so the key is to move beyond plant tours into guided hands-on engagement. So they could start with partnership rather than infrastructure. Or if not, they can also embed processing realities into the curriculum design. So what we did at SIT was intentional. We redesigned the modules so that learning outcomes depend on understanding throughput, equipment limits, documentation, and the science behind scale up. So university can achieve this by aligning assignment, assessments, and learning activities with actual manufacturing scenarios. Or they could also build capability progressively. FoodPlant did not appear overnight, and it started with clear technical focus area and a commitment to build competence step by step. So other universities can begin with smaller uh, pilot line equipment and focused area like drying or fermentation, or even shared teaching labs and scale up as capabilities and partnership grow. Or use each facility as a translational platform, not a demonstration site. So our strength come from treating food plant not a showpiece, but as a working environment where students see how science meets operations. Any university can adopt this kind of mindset, making sure students work with real formulations, real production documentation, and real troubleshooting, even if equipment scale is modest. So in short, the model is not about copying the facility, but it is about designing the education around the authentic industrial uh, practice and using whatever resources are available. And when this intent is clear, then university will be able to create very meaningful experience for their students, and even without a food plant. Yeah, so this is what they could actually do, based on their context.
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting how broad the area of opportunity is, regardless of the equipment at your
Mm,
disposal. It reminds me of my university training when I would be in laboratory courses in chemistry and biology. I would imagine some of you on the call may have had a similar experience. It didn't matter what sorts of equipment we had at our disposal because the lab protocols were written so that we knew the correct answer before we started. And it was just a matter of completing a checklist and not really asking us to be thinking critically. And I think that shift in philosophy, exactly as you mentioned, goes such a
yes.
long way, even if the equipment is exactly the same before
Mm,
and after. So,
mm,
I mean, I think that is a fantastic call to action of not letting any sort of resource constraints constrain the kind of curriculum that you can build in. And you really have been weaving in excellent calls to action throughout. But I definitely want to give you the opportunity to leave our audience with just kind of a final call to action, call to arms of what you would encourage them to do or think about, whether they be students, faculty, or industry representatives.
okay, to the students, be curious about processing. Uh, so the structure is not an accident, it's actually engineered. So if you understand processing, you will always have a place in the industry, in this industry. And to faculty, uh, teach towards capability, not just content, and bring students closer to real constraints. Uh, and that is what I mentioned earlier, that this is the philosophy. And they will learn faster and they will learn better. And to the industry, open your doors and co-create with the institutions. And your pain points today can become their learning opportunities that builds the uh, workforce you will need tomorrow. And to all of us, if we want a stronger food system, we cannot rely only on ideas. We must invest in the people and process, and that turns the ideas into reality.
Thank you. I can think of no better way to end this. So please join me in expressing the deepest gratitude towards Dr. Lim and the FoodPlant team and the SIT team for providing such a valuable resource. And speaking of resources, I just want to remind everyone that providing those and helping catalyze anyone in the alternative protein industry is exactly what we do at GFI. We are here to help. So please reach out to us and me specifically. You see my email up there. My calendar is also open to everyone and anyone. You are welcome to leave feedback on what you want to see next. And so whether I talk to you before then, before the next call, or we just exchange emails and share resources, please continue contributing to this incredible ecosystem so we can all work closer to a more sustainable, secure, and just food system. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you, everyone.